Imagine living in a time where the average life expectancy is 35 years. Yes, you heard it right, just 35 years. This was the era of Jesus, a time that was starkly different from our present day. The first century, particularly in the areas around Jerusalem and throughout what we now call the Middle East, was a period of great political unrest. The mighty Roman Empire had its grip firmly over the region, ruling with an iron fist. Roman law was the order of the day, and military presence was a common sight. Politics was not a matter of choice but a stark reality that influenced every aspect of day-to-day life. This was an era where cultural norms were dictated by a blend of Roman, Greek, and local traditions. The Jewish faith was still a significant part of society, shaping moral codes, laws, and customs. Yet, the influence of the Roman and Greek cultures was undeniable. This fusion of cultures led to a unique societal structure, where traditions were as crucial as the law itself. Life was not easy by any means. With the average life expectancy hovering around 35 years, one can imagine the harshness of the times. It was an era where medical knowledge was limited and diseases were rampant. Child mortality was high, and surviving beyond childhood was considered a feat in itself. This was a world without the conveniences of modern technology, without the comforts we take for granted today. People lived off the land, worked with their hands, and relied on the community for survival. It was a time when the rhythm of life was dictated not by the ticking clock, but by the rising and setting of the sun. As you can see, the era of Jesus was a time of great contrasts. It was a period of both hardship and resilience, of political turmoil and cultural richness. And it is in this fascinating backdrop that we find the life of Jesus, a figure whose teachings continue to resonate with millions even today. With that backdrop in mind, let's delve into the daily life of this fascinating era. Food, a universal human experience, differed greatly during Jesus' time. The typical diet was simple, yet nourishing, reflecting the Mediterranean climate and agricultural practices of the region. It was a cuisine steeped in the rhythms of the natural world, with meals structured around the seasons and local produce. At the heart of the diet was bread, not the fluffy packaged variety we're familiar with today, but a dense, hearty loaf made from barley or wheat. Bread was so central to daily life that it was often synonymous with food itself. Seafood, particularly fish, was another staple. The Sea of Galilee, teeming with tilapia, sardines, and other species, provided a plentiful source of protein. Fish was typically dried, salted, or pickled to preserve it, and it was often served with bread at meals. Then there were the olives, a versatile fruit that was eaten whole, used to make oil or turned into a kind of paste. Olives were a cornerstone of the diet, providing essential fats and flavor. Wine, too, was a common feature at the table. It was usually diluted with water and consumed in moderation, providing a source of hydration as well as a touch of conviviality. But food in Jesus' time wasn't just about what was on the plate. Meals were a communal affair, a time to gather together and share not just food, but stories, laughter, and camaraderie. The act of breaking bread together was a powerful symbol of fellowship and community. Moreover, food held deep cultural and symbolic significance. Bread, for instance, was seen as a gift from God, a blessing to be received with gratitude. Fish, too, took on spiritual connotations, eventually becoming a symbol of Christianity itself. Food wasn't just about sustenance, it was a central part of social interactions. It tied people together, shaping their identities and their relationships. It was a testament to the rich tapestry of life during Jesus' time, a tangible link to an era long past. In an era without fast fashion, what did people wear? Well, the clothing in Jesus' time was simple yet practical. The most common garment was the tunic, a loose-fitting garment that resembled a long shirt. Men's tunics typically reached their knees, while women's extended down to their ankles. Children, on the other hand, wore shorter tunics, more akin to modern-day tunics. And then there were the cloaks, large pieces of fabric draped over one shoulder and wrapped around the body, providing protection from the elements. Footwear was equally simple. Sandals, made from leather, were the common choice for all. Now, while the basic elements of clothing may have been similar, social status played a significant role in the materials used and the adornments added. Richer individuals often wore garments made from finer materials and adorned with intricate designs and embroidery. Clothing, much like today, was a reflection of one's status and identity. Without modern technology, how did people earn a living and spend their free time? Imagine a time when work was done with bare hands, not with machines or digital tools. The era of Jesus was such a time. The workday was dictated by the sun, not by a ticking clock. People woke with the dawn and rested at dusk. Most worked close to nature, in fields, forests, or by the sea. Fishing was a common job, especially around the Sea of Galilee. Fishermen would cast their nets into the water, working together to haul in their catch. It was a job that required strength, patience, and a deep understanding of the sea and its rhythms. Farming was another prevalent occupation. Farmers would till the soil, sow seeds, and harvest crops. They raised animals, such as sheep and goats, for milk, wool, and meat. This wasn't a 9-to-5 job, it was a way of life, a cycle of planting and reaping, of feeding and caring for livestock. Craftsmanship was also valuable. Carpenters, potters, weavers, blacksmiths, these were the skilled workers of the time. Their hands shaped the material world, from the houses people lived in, to the pots they cooked in, to the clothes they wore. But life wasn't all work. Leisure time, though rare, was deeply cherished. Storytelling was a favorite pastime. People would gather to listen to tales of heroes, gods, and far-off lands. Music was another form of entertainment. Musicians played lyres and flutes, and people sang songs of love, war, and worship. Games too were popular. Children would play with dolls and balls, while adults might engage in wrestling or racing. So while the people of Jesus' time didn't have our modern conveniences, they found ways to earn a living and enjoy their free time. They worked hard, but they also knew how to celebrate life. They understood the value of a good story, a beautiful song, a thrilling game. Work was labor-intensive and leisure time was a cherished commodity. Now that we've set the stage, let's walk through a typical day in Jesus' era. As the first light of dawn brushes the sky, the rooster's crow rouses the household. It's time to start the day. The family gathers around a simple breakfast, breaking bread and sharing the first meal of the day together. This isn't a time for leisurely breakfasts. The day's work waits for no one. After breakfast, the men leave for work, their tasks varying from carpentry and fishing to farming. The women, on the other hand, stay behind. Their day is filled with household chores, from grinding grains and baking bread to weaving and looking after the children. Each task is performed with a sense of purpose and dedication, reflecting the value of hard work in this era. As midday approaches, the heat of the sun prompts a pause in the workday. It's time for the main meal, a hearty spread of bread, olives, cheese, and perhaps some fish or meat. Families come together, reinforcing the bonds of kinship and community. After the meal, there's a brief respite, a time to rest and escape the midday heat. As the afternoon wears on, work resumes. The men return to their tasks, while the women continue with their chores. As the sun begins to set, social activities come to the fore. There might be a wedding to attend, a feast to partake in, or simply a gathering around the fire, sharing stories and songs. With the setting of the sun, the day draws to a close. The oil lamps are lit, casting a warm glow over the family as they share their last meal of the day. It's a time for quiet reflection before they retire for the night, ready to start the cycle anew with the break of dawn. Despite the stark differences, there are surprising similarities. The value of hard work, the importance of family and community, and the universal human need for sustenance and rest.